Tampa Bay is like no place else.
Wait, you can't recycle the bag. You have to throw it away.
Proper recycling keeps it that way for everyone. Bags tangle in machinery and can bring sorting efforts to a halt.
No bags.
Trash the bags and keep our recycling program moving forward.
No, Mom, look. No plastic bags.
Do your part to keep our recycling bag-free. Trash the tanglers or return them to participating retailers. For more information, visit tampabayrecycles.org.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Commission on Human Trafficking meeting today. It is our full board meeting, and we're so excited to have you here with us today. I am Chair Connie Rose, and my co-chair, Dottie Grover-Skipper, is not with us today because her son is getting married. So I just wanted to just do that, just real quick. I wanted to introduction, so I believe that we do have some folks that are new with us today. So do you mind just taking a moment introducing yourself?
Not at all. I'm Christine Lewis. I'm with the Hillsborough County State Attorney's Office Special Victims Unit.
Welcome. And I believe we have a few other folks that are with us that are non-voting members, so welcome also. And then we also have some guests with us that we'll be introducing later. So thank you so much for being with us today. Lisa?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am restarting my laptop, so we're going to do a roll call in an unconventional way. I'm going to go around the room. I already know you have quorum, but for formality's sake, if everyone would just acknowledge by saying present or here, and we will start with redefining refuge. Celeste? Captain Cave. Here. Captain Carlisle. Here. Detective Aguiar. Here. Misty LaPierre, Sailor Freedom.
Yes, here.
Thank you. The Vice Chair of the Steering Committee, Chair Klug. Here. Thank you. And Deputy Mobley. Here. Thank you. And we already know from the State Attorney's Office, Deputy Chief Boulos. Here. Gina Dickerson, Crisis Center. Present. Alex Petrolak.
Here.
Thank you. And Officer Wood?
Sergeant Williams.
If you would introduce yourself, this is your first meeting as well, I believe.
I'm Sergeant Derek Wood. I'm the head of the Special Investigation Unit.
Thank you. Mr.
For Hillsborough TV, when everyone's speaking, can you please push the button on the microphone on the right? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parkinson. And Ms. Molinecki?
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Petrolak?
Present.
Perfect. And today we have with us, as you know, Mr. Parkinson with our Criminal Justice Department here at Hillsborough County. We also have Director Patrick Mincy from Children's Services. We've got Contract Manager? Program Manager, Heather Cazzola, also with Children's Services. We have Director Felicia Crosby Rucker with Homeless Services. And Contract Manager, or just Manager. Just Manager, Dwight Wilson, also with Homeless Services. And our attorney, everyone knows, our esteemed Deborah Cromartie Mincy. Thank you all for being here. Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Is your laptop up and running by now?
I'm going to give it a try. You can go ahead and read the public comment statement.
Okay, go. All right, so our public comment. We have folks that are going to be having public comment other than the folks that are on our agenda. Lisa?
We have some individuals here in the room. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
We do not have anyone online that I believe. HTV, do we have anyone signed in online for public comment?
We do not have anyone online.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, so the Commission on Human Trafficking has established a period at each of its regular meetings to allow citizens to speak. We would like to keep those comments at 3 minutes or less, please. Anyone who wishes to speak virtually or in person during the meeting may do so by contacting the Commission's administrator, whose contact information is on the Commission webpage on the county's website at hcfl.gov. All speakers who wish to speak virtually will be required to provide their name, email, and address, and telephone number. This information is being requested to facilitate the public comment process. Because we do have folks that are here in person, right? We will call on speakers by name in order by which the request to speak has been received, which I believe Lisa will have that for us. first come, first served basis. The commission respects the rights of citizens to express their opinions and concerns. However, the commission requests that citizens present their concerns in a respectful manner to maintain a polite atmosphere where all individuals are respected and up to 3 minutes are allowed for each speaker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We can move on to item 4. Item 3 has been deferred to the May meeting. Item 4 would be review and approval of the meeting recap from January. Need a motion and a vote.
Yes, I'm going there.
Okay.
Sorry. I have 2 sets of documents in front of me, so I was like, hey, let me just pull out the right one, so I do apologize for that.
No worries.
So we would like to motion for review of our... Oh, sorry, thank you. I'm usually good about that. I apologize. So review and approval of our meeting recap from 1/23/2025. A motion to review and to approve.
This is Charles Klug. Charles Klug. I move to accept.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Looks, we passed. Thank you. So we start with our presentations. The first one is going to be the Children's Network of Hillsborough County. So we have Terry Ballett and Kimberly Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members, for allowing for us to come forward today and present on this very important topic, human trafficking recruitment and the potential to partner. My COO, Kim Williams, will be the one that's going to present on the service provision.
Hi, good afternoon. Really what we've proposed, and I believe the proposal is in the agenda and packet, but it's really a 3-pronged approach, and it's to support and prevent our most vulnerable population, which is our children in the dependency system. And so the first way in which we are proposing that we support is through marketing materials and really developing marketing materials that can be produced for community awareness. For the general population in the county. We also want to do specialized recruitment to bring on additional foster homes that will specialize in being able to house and parent this population. So the first bullet is really around marketing materials. The second is around training. And so what we have looked at is partnering with the No More Foundation to have internal capacity to do 15 train the trainer sessions so that we can train our foster parents, train our case managers on signs to look for, especially for this really at-risk population. We know that the children in the child welfare system are even more at risk due to them being removed from their homes, they're isolated, they've had unhealthy relationships, and many of them have already been sexually abused in some way. And so we really need to support our foster parents to be able to house and parent these children. And then the third is really looking at enhanced subsidies and stipends. So our foster parents right now currently get a daily board rate. It's about $25 a day for our 13 to 17-year-old population. What we're proposing is to add a $45 stipend to that, bringing them to about $70-ish. And then also a stipend for the youth. So really giving them a positive incentive. It's about $100 a month for positive behavior management. And so we would work with our partners on the human trafficking side to develop some goals for these youth to really have positive incentives through that behavior management plan. So, any questions?
This is Connie. So I have a question about the training. So in looking at what organization you would choose to conduct this very extensive training, and thank you for this part of it. Much appreciated. How was the No More Foundation chosen?
So we have worked with No More on a number of initiatives, and so we had a preliminary meeting with them to talk about, is this something that they would be able to provide? And so that was the first initial conversation for the purposes of the budget to get an idea.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Would you like for us to go forward with the budget?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you so much. If you look at the budget page, we actually addressed it based on the fiscal year from October to September 2025. We recognize that we did not have a long runway. Our hope is that moving forward, if awarded these additional dollars to provide the service, that we will be able to enhance the service moving forward. So I might be getting ahead of myself, and I apologize for that, but we're really eager to partner around this. So for the monthly enhanced rate, Ms. Williams did talk a little bit about that. We based it off of 10 youth, and that was really to address the enhanced rate of $45 a day. So again, there's additional dollars on top of what our foster parents are already making. We recognize that our foster parents overall are really doing this, voluntarily. They don't get paid a whole lot, so we are asking for them to do a lot more, and we want to recognize that. It's additional training, it's additional oversight, it's additional transportation, and so on and so forth. And as Ms. Williams mentioned as well, we talked about the youth stipend. We want to be able to incentivize them as well. And again, we base that off of 10 youth. For the marketing and impact justification, looking at our marketing overall, we do partner with a marketing firm currently. However, this will be on top of what they already do for us as the lead agency in child welfare here in Hillsborough County. So it's really targeting this particular population. They have already agreed to do so. And then also looking at No More, I do want to mention that Ms. Williams did mention that we have had a conversation with them prior to this, but also we have partnered with them in the past. I've had them come forward and also conduct a training for my board so that they could recognize the signs around human trafficking. And also we have partnered with them in the past around video snippets that they currently have and really sharing that out. That has been some time ago, but we did recognize that was a benefit overall. So we would like to reincorporate those videos and do some additional work around that as well to market. And then the other expenses that you see really are around train the trainer. That's important for us. So No More has agreed to train one of our own staff. We have a staff of 300. However, recognizing that we also have a number of providers. We have 5 case management agencies and currently have over 2,300 kids in the child welfare system. Out of home care is 1,800. So we want to be able to touch as many providers as possible. So when we say staff, we're saying our existing staff as well as our provider staff as well. And then our foster parents, again, this is what this is really about, as well as our foster parents and training them. And we really want to really get into our group homes. Currently, right now, Children's Network of Hillsborough has 2 group homes, and we feel as though that would be a perfect identified population to go in and provide some training there as well. And then the remaining piece is maybe not the exciting part of it, but it is important, is the indirect rate, and we put that at 10% with an overall grand total ask of $182,253.50. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Anyone have any questions at all? Comments, questions?
Hi, Celeste Williams. I guess my question would be is how are we dispersing the $100? That's my biggest concern would be how, especially this population of youth, how would we distribute that 100? Sure.
Yeah. So those dollars would be distributed through the foster parents. They would still be able to manage that money. And again, it would be up to $100. So it would be based on that behavior management plan and the positive incentives. So really building those healthy relationships and going to school and not having so many elopements and those kinds of things. Whatever is built individually for that child would sort of qualify for their incentives. So it would be individual, but it would be through the foster parent that would be able to manage that money.
So it would be given to the foster parent as opposed to I guess my question's, we're not handing cash, or we're not
Correct.
handing just, okay.
That's correct. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Yes, hello, Tony Aguirre here, Tampa PD. This $182,000, is this basically the prorated amount for the rest of 2025? Is that where that number came from?
That's correct.
Okay. So when would the start date be for that?
We could start as soon as possible. I don't think that that's an issue. We can get the trainer in place, and recognizing that No More is going to partner with us. I mean, they're set and ready to go, so we could start immediately.
Okay. And then are there currently 10 youth?
So we have 6 verified youth right now that are in the dependency system. Not all youth may qualify. We may have some that may be on the run. But we also recognize that we have a lot of at-risk youth. So we'll have to build some criteria around how we're identifying those 10 youth for that stipend and for the foster homes.
Okay. So there's not 10 currently, but I guess the goal is to make it 10 essentially?
Yeah. We absolutely have the youth. We just have
Okay.
to identify the 10.
Okay, I understand. Thanks.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? So we would like to, most of you know we have a steering committee. Oh, yes, go ahead, Lisa.
Madam Chair, I do have Vice Chair Groover Skipper had emailed some comments on the items that were on today's agenda. And the first comment for the first presentation is regarding the Children's Network. Vice Chair Groover Skipper, apologies, states, I am in favor of moving forward to provide funding to the Children's Network. In their proposal, they stated they wanted to have funding to go toward training and have the training provided by the No More Foundation. I, meaning Vice Chair Groover Skipper, sit on the No More Foundation's Board of Directors, so I may need to recuse myself from voting on this. Please advise. That would be into the county attorney's purview. There are other entities such as Devereaux that could provide effective training. Since Vice Chair Groover Skipper isn't here today, there's no conflict because she cannot be here to vote. That is all she provided on this presentation.
Okay. One of the things that I'd like to bring up for a motion is to move this conversation over to the steering committee for next month so that we could have an even more robust conversation. Unfortunately, we're also missing some really key folks because it is Hillsborough Day in Tallahassee. And so we really want to make sure that we serve, our service providers that are coming forward requesting some funding allocations, that we really serve them. So I would like to put a motion out that we move this to the steering committee for April. Yes, Lisa.
May I? That's a wonderful thing. However, if members could opine today on some of the elements that they would be in favor of and some that they would want to explore in more detail, that would be helpful. So then the Children's Network can address those items between now and the April steering committee meeting, because as Daria Dixon is here also from Procurement Services, we're pushing up against some timelines to get these contracts out, written, and noticed for the public and the procurement department's processes. So it would be really helpful to dive into some of those matters now so they could be addressed directly at the steering committee. The other part of that, and I think this is where you were going, is that the way we have been operating is that the final contracts and moving forward to fund were made here at the full board meeting. Because of the timeline that I mentioned, it would be helpful if this board voted formally to vest the rights in the steering committee to make those decisions and move forward with contracts, scope of work, funding decisions, and anything that would pertain to it. Now, I'd have to double check, but I think we have 11 members of the 19 on the steering committee. Any other member who wants to participate in the steering committee meeting is welcome to come and discuss and be a part of that meeting. But that is something that I would ask so that we're not moving into May or June before funding decisions are made.
Perfect. Thank you so much for explaining that. I appreciate that. So let's go back and let's look at our different bullet points. And let's break it down and put a motion for each one. And then let's see if we need to expand the conversation or if we can go ahead and approve it. Lisa, do you mind just taking us through each bullet point so that we can motion, if you don't mind?
Oh, it is on already. So with the proposal, you've got the different elements that are outlined, and it's probably easier if we go directly to the budget document. HTV, if you can put that on the screen for the public to see, that would be helpful. It's the colorful blue and salmon-colored stripy document. So the first one is something that the steering committee had put on as a goal from the strategic plan. So if you look at your agenda, the strategic plan bullet points as they pertain to housing options for children. There's strategy 1, provide specialized training for foster families. Strategy 2, specialized foster family recruitment and support. And that would include additional stipends for, and the funding, and jump in here anytime, Children's Services, because this is your purview and subject matter expertise rather than mine. But the funding follows the child, correct? So it would be an additional stipend for that child who has an increased need and would help the families who take in a child with increased needs, because foster families have it very hard. And when you have a lot of hoops, as Ms. Ballier and Ms. Williams talked about at the steering committee meeting, there are hoops, I don't want to say hoops, there are benchmarks for qualifying foster families. It's better if this is an only child in the home. It's better if these are experienced parents, and so on. So that was one of the strategies and goals that was in there. So that would be the first point. It was also part of the strategic plan to do increased recruitment for these very specialized families or placements. So that's the other. And the training, because we want these parents to be successful and we want the child to be successful, there is an increased training that can happen that can make that happen, I should say. Hope to make that happen. But I'm just laying out the bullet points. And please, all of you who have experience in this topic, weigh in.
I do have a question. Natasha Nascimento with Redefining Refuge. So the training, I'm very familiar with No More Foundation. Obviously, they do phenomenal work, and they've been around for a very long time, so they're very tenured. But when it comes to the HT component, is the trainer vetted through the Department of Children and Families and in the pre-service training with the USF case management? Because in the last sort of decade, that's changed. So DCF was the only body that could approve a curriculum for train the trainer specifically. There is no other governing body as far as I know. And so I'm just wondering if that's something that sort of happened in the last year, because I don't know. So if it would be recognized by the Department of Children and Families, for licensed foster parents?
So this would not be part of their licensure as a safe home, as a level 4. This would just be an additional training for our foster parents to move them in that direction. We want to make sure that any child that's housed with our foster parents that are coming forward to work with this population, that they would have the tools to engage these youth, understand the elopement behaviors, understand the trauma and those things behind that child. We would then want to move them into that level 4 licensure, but that would go through the department's licensing piece.
Gotcha.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so it's more just like if I was doing training for a group home, essentially, and saying, we've been working with this population of kids, here's an additional training for like trauma competency, do's, don'ts, that sort of thing. But it's not I guess where I'm getting hung up a little bit is just the trainer part of things, because, right, and it just gets a little hairy with DCF is all I'm saying when it comes to train the trainer models, and so that was my question. And then the other thing is, I think it's important that the council knows that the numbers that you guys have in here, we might only have 6 verified cases right now, but statutorily, the CNHC is required to treat non-substantiated cases the same way in Hillsborough County. So that adds a massive fiscal burden, because we have probably, we're the Circuit 13 Human Trafficking Liaison for CNHC, actually. And so we have over 100 kids on our caseload that are in need of services. Probably half of those children are community children. And so, to your point, a lot of the times there are no caregiver funds available. So our agency privately is also subsidizing caregiver funds for community kids. But yeah, foster parents don't necessarily have any resources that are taking in trafficked kids, and not even verified but not substantiated cases.
Sure. Yep. And not including the community children, but we have 20 additional youth that are in that not substantiated cohort. But to your point, Natasha, we have a lot more kids that maybe just haven't been reviewed, but we know that they are at risk or have had a situation that would qualify them.
This is Connie. So I'd like to piggyback off of Natasha, and thank you, Natasha. My question is, so we have organizations out there that actually really were the ones of the champions, like Chance out of Miami and Devereaux, throughout the state, for therapeutic foster care. So I am kind of curious to do the training, especially the train the trainer, utilizing Devereaux, because they are the ones that are in this space. They work in this space every day. Would that be an option for you to look at for Devereaux to conduct the training for the foster care parents and your staff?
Devereaux is one of our contracted providers for specialized therapeutic foster care, so we absolutely could have a conversation with them to see what that would look like for our foster parents across the board, not just the foster parents that are licensed through Devereaux.
Thank you.
I have a question specifically for redefining refuge, just because you work with the youth. Do you find this $100 a month stipend be something that would be valuable, or do you have concerns about providing the youth money as an incentive?
So we definitely have concerns. We would have concerns about providing cash directly to our youth. We don't provide cash or gift cards directly to our youth. So most of the kids that are already working with our agency, which is the majority of the CNHC trafficked kiddos, when they're meeting these service plan requirements, we're doing things that are more tangible, as an example. So, taking them to a certain outing that they want to go to, or certain services, or, that sort of thing. But I wouldn't be in favor of them getting gift cards, because they typically sell them, and I certainly wouldn't be in favor of them getting cash. And then as far as the foster parent, I just think that would sometimes require some additional oversight, which we mostly have great relationships with our foster parents, so we know how they're spending the money. If a child wanted to open up a savings account, as an example, that's not something that we could do as a provider, but we do have foster parents that have done that, and we can kind of oversee that account to make sure that it's being used accordingly. Does that answer your question?
No, I was just...
You want a yes or no?
Well, since we're going to be voting on whether or not to provide funding, $6,000 provided to the youth, I just wanted your input on whether or not you thought that was a good idea. Because obviously it's a good amount of money, and whether or not you thought that it would be something beneficial, or for this would just end up being $100 provided to a caregiver who wouldn't necessarily provide it to the child or wouldn't be used for their benefit. So that would be my first concern, was just what does that look like? How does it benefit, and is it a good way of spending $6,000?
And I think that matters when you are doing visits with the kids. So we do visits obviously pretty regularly with our kids and parents. And so, you know, making sure, I know we've had a case before where the mom was not unfortunately using the funds as she should have been. And so that was a larger conversation. But I do think it would be beneficial. Like, the kids are very motivated by, you know, instant sort of gratification, positive reinforcement. So it just matters who's being assigned, I guess, to oversee that.
Madam Chair, may I add to that? Thank you. I do want to add that, you know, this is not unique in that we provide foster parents with, you know, a stipend for the child. We do this in situations where we have a crossover youth. And for those of you who don't know what crossover is, that's a youth that's in the dependency system as well as the Department of Juvenile Justice. And we do have a specialized plan with those foster parents, a behavior plan with those foster parents to work with those youth. So this would not be, you know, any different, a different population, but not any different as it relates to the stipend as a whole.
All right, and then one final question about the marketing. What does that look like? Have you had any discussions about how to market to this specific community and what that would look like and where those funds are going to be used?
That's a great question. I think that we would really need to, we had initial conversations, like I said, with No More, and I do know that they have a number of videos we talk through what that would look like, but it wouldn't just stop there because it really needs to come from Children's Network in partnership with. So we would really sit with our marketing team and kind of strategize exactly what that would look like, you know, kind of a calendar of events to target this population.
I have any other questions?
Are you sure? Because you have great questions.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, go.
Antina Mobley, Public Defender's Office. My question is, how did you determine the amounts for the enhanced subsidy and the youth stipend?
Sure. So we currently have an enhanced tier rate that is approved by the Department of Children and Families, and what we look at is some of those behaviors around the child. As Lisa mentioned, it follows the child, and so based on the behaviors, we looked at that as like a tier 3, which was that same amount.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? So we'd like to take this bullet point by bullet point to vote on it.
Well, Madam Chair, if the commissioners sitting around the table are comfortable with the proposal as it is in the packet and provided, then a motion to approve the funding to the Children's Network here and now would be beneficial. If there's anyone who would like to continue it and take this back to the steering committee, then that's an option too. So it would be up to those voting members sitting around the table to decide whether they want to go ahead and motion to approve the proposal and have procurement get started on contract work with the Children's Services Department. We've been in contact with Director Bricky about the approach to funding, and we have a couple of different options. So we would still have to work that out. So it would be helpful to move forward today to give us the, you know, length of time we need for that procurement to happen.
So I do have a question. So if we are have any questions or concerns around the training component, can we still pass this as a whole with that as an amendment at a later date?
Director Mincy, would you like to weigh in on that, or Ms. Dixon from procurement?
Now, what we would be willing to do as far as, well, let's go back. The training piece, there's no issue that we have with the training piece in regard. I would like to see what it would look like to truly have facilitators trained and see if that is an option. As far as getting the contract and whatnot together with procurement, when we had conversations earlier, it was about us providing, some of the guardrails that would need to be in place so that we could determine, that things were being done in a way that is truly reimbursable, that wouldn't cause any questions, any heartburn by anybody. So we're willing to participate. We just have to make sure that it's done the right way and it's its own thing. I think that was the other thing we were talking about before, based on some of the contracts that we already have in place, it not being able to be included in that, but have to be its own separate agreement.
Right. I think Mr. Parkinson wanted to weigh in.
Just a couple comments. I was at the steering committee when the concept for this proposal was developed. I think this is substantively compliant with what was asked of the steering committee. You have a quorum here, so I think you have the muscle to move this forward. As far as your concerns, Madam Chair, I understand. I mean, you're one of those people that have received training from multiple sources, and from a qualitative perspective, you probably prefer some than others. I see this as a first step. Getting this program off the ground, the No More training does provide a good foundation for this program to move forward. You heard from Children's Network that they actually already have contractual agreements with Deborah. So as this program starts to ramp up, there's nothing that's being said that they couldn't get additional training 6 months from now, a year from now. But I think the No More Foundation training does provide a good foundation for these stakeholders to move forward and implement this. And this is a great presentation. This is a great budget. This is exactly what we asked for, this group asked for, so thank you for that.
All right, one last time, any questions or any concerns before we have a motion? So I would like to motion, Madam Chair? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're interested in moving forward with the item, I make a motion to accept the budget as presented.
Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Great. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Passed. Thank you.
May I ask, does that motion to include Vice Chair, Subcommittee Vice Chair Klug, the scope of work? 'Cause you mentioned the budget, but the proposal included the scope of work.
Yes, yes it is. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Just a clarification. I don't think we need to revote. Thank you. The next presenters, Madam Chair, for the USF Bright Foundation are virtually. They are in the queue with HTV, so if we can test their microphones and bring them on screen for their presentation. They don't have a PowerPoint. Their scope and budget as well was included in your packets. So if you want to turn to that, we've got Dr. Shelley Wages and Project Manager Kaylee Pate Carter on screen.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate our opportunity to be able to be here today. I know we've presented to you all before related to the Bright Project. We're bringing a little something different to you all today. It was brought to us that you all were looking at the possibility or need for some training, but some of the difficulties in creating a major training conference for court actors to happen immediately this year. This was brought to us because the person who brought it knew we'd been working on doing some extensions for Bright. And some of those extensions we've been looking at trying to do, these items aligned. So first, I would like to bring up to the commission and say a thank you for those of you who haven't been on the commission as long, may not be aware that what we're asking for here is a reinvestment in us, a reinvestment grant, because this was the commission that provided us the initial seed money several years ago to begin building the technology and the platform and conduct the research that we did to build a really viable platform for a victim service connector. As a result of you all investing in us initially, we could show, if we have time or the questions asked, Kaylee's ready to provide. We have statistics of showing how we've mapped out the state and where we're at in Bright, in how Hillsborough actually has more programs in our system and higher use in our system because we did pilot test and work with you all innovatively to build out Hillsborough County first. So we're coming back to you all again with this proposal. This proposal is a mix of a training and networking conference with research with some very specific goals and objectives. It is our understanding that one of the needs or issues that we're having for a really solid criminal justice systems response that's victim-centered and trauma-informed is to be able to build better networking and collaborations. And through our needs assessment and research, we hear quite often how although there are some collaborations, there is a need for more because there's still some competition within some of these collaborations. Additionally, what we've been learning and hearing from the community is that we are still continuing to not always properly identify human trafficking victims and be able to set them apart from potential other allied crimes, and or that might happen at the law enforcement level with initial identification, but also within the court system specifically, that within many of the court cases, it's our understanding the court administrator in Hillsborough has been looking at the cases, and there's kind of a need for some training and better understanding of how within these cases to identify human trafficking victims and then connect them to services and move that through the system. So we have, from all of that information, designed actually the proposal we gave to you to specifically meet that, doing what we know how to do well, which is the research on the front end. So our goal is to conduct research over the next several months, in which case we would be talking with 4 primary stakeholder groups in Hillsborough County. This would be law enforcement, court actors to include public defender, state attorney, judges, victim services within the court and court administration, as well as talking to the nonprofits and talking to survivors. And the goal in that qualitative study would be to really learn and understand for Hillsborough County what these specific needs are and how technology and or developing innovative prototype, so to speak, of a full system response model could better address these needs. And as part of that, to make that work, what kind of training is really needed for each of these stakeholders at which phase? This then would culminate in a conference that we've proposed here, where at that conference we would conduct, if you want to look at the objectives or the training agenda within it, the findings, we would compile those and present them in a form of a training as far as the initial understanding the needs of the system. We would then rope in taking what we have found and testing these ideas with the group and getting more information from these same stakeholders in the group to integrate and propose what could be a full response model. A secondary goal of this is to address the need of how to get these entities, meaning police, court, survivors, and nonprofits, all who have to work collaboratively together. We all have a similar goal in the end, and we want to help the victims and we want to reduce trafficking. However, in my experience and in research and prior to being a researcher, I was an advocate and then a cop. And what I know really well in the system is we might have that bigger goal, but sometimes in our day-to-day, the functions and objectives of what we're trying to do or our role in the system and achieving those goals can become competitive with each other. And so we really need to do some connecting and understanding of all of those roles and how we can develop a response model that all of the needs are met within each of those roles, specifically the survivors, and be effective at addressing human trafficking. So the goal of the conference is twofold. It's to present our findings and do a small training, conduct some more focus group type research to get more insight on those findings, present at the end what we would propose to be a potential response model and which partners we would need to help facilitate the delivery of that and to test that model, while at the same time using this opportunity to create networking sessions and facilitate discussions across those different stakeholder groups so we can all learn to gain a better understanding and appreciation and hopefully get all those voices into the response model. So that is the gist of what we're looking to accomplish. I don't know if you want to ask me questions on that. I know that's a lot to try to pull in and take in, or if you'd like me to review the budget.
I would like for you to go through the budget possibly first, and then that might spark some additional questions, please.
Sure. So we've done our best to kind of break this budget out to give you some costs. The highest costs are obviously some personnel costs, but also an event cost. As we all know, events cost money to have a location. And in our initial panel, we want to be able to have survivors on that panel and stipends. So you could, and we need the personnel to facilitate putting on the whole conference, let's say, right? So we'll need people sending out the invitations, managing the registrations, and the day of the conference on site, as well as at that conference, we will need some of the research costs are the prior research of the personnel it would take to conduct that research in the field to prepare for the conference, and a little bit of the research costs here are the personnel to put at the conference for faculty affiliates to be able to run those focus groups. And that's a different type of research personnel than those who might be facilitating the actual functioning of the conference and the conference space. So the event cost goes into what that conference space might be per person, and the costs all incurred for parking and other items that we need to run a successful conference, tables, materials. Materials would be basic, and that's if we need to print any flyers or have some things we need to give out for people to bring home with them, and materials when they're done. And the honorariums, of course, are for the speakers we may need to bring in for the training, specifically when we're having lived experience experts. So the research costs break out to being the lead researchers. That would be someone like myself when I'm conducting research, but there's also costs under personnel for the conference that would go to myself in the summer and Kaylee that are leading and managing the recruitment, building the networks, and getting the right people that need the training, should participate into that conference, which is different from conducting individual research interviews, which are under research costs. So lead researchers are more like a faculty member, and assistant researchers would be our graduate student costs to conduct the amount of research we need to do in such a compressed period of time, giving the timeline on the approvals of budget and when the spend needs to be in the conference would be taking place. And then graduate assistants. I think that breaks out the budget.
If I may, Madam Chair, you had asked about the bullet points. So going back to the strategic plan, it had been in strategy number 3 on the agenda. You can see full integration of community stakeholders in development of comprehensive resources that guarantees an accelerated decline in human trafficking in Hillsborough County. The strategy under that was to host community awareness programs, develop event conference, implement speakers bureau and celebrity spokesperson, and evolve the Don't Buy It campaign. So during the steering committee meeting, for those who weren't present, and those who were can jump in at any time, it was discussed to have a specific training for law enforcement, the state attorney's office, the public defender's office, court administration, and the judiciary, so that when cases come in from law enforcement, they are ready to receive those cases, and their staff are trained in identifying the hallmarks of human trafficking. For some, this will be a refresher course. For some, it will be new. I know with when the Public Defender's Office was represented at the steering committee meeting, and I don't want to put words in Public Defender McLean's mouth because she's not here. She's in Tallahassee for Hillsborough Day. She was especially interested in having the public defenders who work on these cases to be part of this conversation, to find out, when I think in the proposal from USF, it's part of it is a conversation between law enforcement, the attorneys on the state attorney side, on the public defender side, in the court administration, to discuss how they all interact and what they can do to better serve the population, and with that have the voices of victims and survivors in those conversations. So it is a first step in moving towards the annual, conference that especially I think Commissioner Cameron Cepeda had talked about, and having, Hillsborough County be the template for conferences to bring all of these groups together.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Bright before we move forward? Yes, Natasha.
I'm just curious if Dr. Wages has spoken with the International Association of Human Trafficking Investigators. They are an organization that is in their 14th year of conference, and this is what they do. They bring together prosecutors, public defenders, law enforcement, analysts, and survivors. And so I'm wondering if there's any collaboration with them, since they do host this annual conference every year. I don't know if anyone in law enforcement in the room has attended the conference, or if anyone in the room has attended the conference. It's normally by invitation only, so that it stays specifically for law enforcement, prosecutors, public defenders, the judiciary. So I'm just curious if Dr. Wages is partnering with them or has spoken with them.
We speak to a lot of groups, so I want to make sure I have the right one in my head when I answer this question. Is this the group that hosts the conference out of Clearwater every year, even though it's a national conference?
Yes.
Yes, I spoke with them last year, actually, and I attended their conference. And we had talked about various collaborations with them at that time. It wasn't specifically on this idea. It was more on our Bright system and how they could begin to use the Bright system and bring it into law enforcement. And something that I'll say is a little different, because I did attend that conference and meet the majority of people, and that is there's very few academics at that conference. So it's mainly a practitioner conference. So, and that's where the expertise are within that group. We are in partnership with law enforcement. We currently are in the process of developing and signing an MOU with the Department of Homeland Security Investigations here for the Tampa area, Miami, so for all of Florida, and looking at that. And what we're building on here more in this conference are the expertise that groups like the one you mentioned are coming to us for nationally, which is, as academics and researchers, we lead to develop recommendations, trainings, processes from the research that we know how to facilitate to learn from the actual stakeholders in the field. So we're building on the model and the procedures that we use to bring Bright to the field, which has been a successful model, and those who are coming to us. I'm more than happy to talk with them further, but from what I saw last year when I attended their conference and looked, they're looking more, I saw a lot of tech devices that are there from private companies that are trying to serve law enforcement, a lot of things specific to AI, but I didn't really see anything that leads putting all the voices at a table and truly facilitating and understanding and using research to evaluate the content of those discussions to develop a model that would work equally well for all the groups. And that's how we built Bright, and that's what we're working to do here, to take what we did to build that technology and create a full response model that would go from meeting law enforcement's needs, meeting the survivor needs and connecting to services, meeting then the needs of the courts and the court actors. But at this time, what we do is a little different from most practitioners because as researchers, we gather and collect and analyze all the data. And when we build the system we want to build here, we're going to build in the ability to collect and track the type of data that would be needed for you all to have a backbone to understand if you do an initiative to reduce trafficking, you have the data to then look at what was the impact of that initiative. And was it successful or not? So those are the components we would work to build into this as researchers, which are the same components we've built into the BRIGHT system.
Thank you.
So this is Chair Rose. So I do have a couple questions for you, Dr. Waggers. So one of my first questions is, we know that the Florida Alliance Against Human Trafficking has received large sums of money through the state to conduct law enforcement training. Would there be any crossover with the Florida Alliance with this particular conference?
No, not to the best of my knowledge, because we have an advisory council on BRIGHT that will be working with us on this. We always have. One of those members is Alan Wilkett, who sits on the Alliance Council. So our goal here is to look at what's already been done and not duplicate or replicate, but to identify the gaps. So one of the goals of this conference for you all is for us to also learn, if you want to put on, let's say next year, a really large, robust training conference for different groups, is to learn here and be able to give you all feedback on here's where the gaps in knowledge really are and what the your people are saying they really need in the court system or actors and or police to address this issue better, that we could then say this is the type of trainings they need, so that when you're trying to address this goal, you would be able to develop or bring in people who can do those trainings. The training that they're getting through the Alliance, I believe, was primarily written and built by Alan Wilkett, who sits on our advisory council. And that is out there and available. And I have to be honest, we hear a lot. When we did the initial needs assessment, we heard a lot from law enforcement. We don't need USF to do training. So our goal here is to train you all more on how to understand each other and your roles in the system to be able to better collaboratively work together and identify the gaps in knowledge that are causing the errors that you might be seeing in the casing and the case filing, so you would have some direction in how to develop better responses and protocols to address it. So that's a little different than a training like the Alliance has, which is on what are the myths versus facts, how do I identify a victim as a law enforcement officer. We have other initiatives where we're working with the Alliance and others on how to make that more effective for them, but that wouldn't be the specific goal of what we're trying to do here for Hillsborough County.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes.
Just a couple comments, and I think Ms. Monteleone has some comments from Ms. Grover Skipper, who couldn't be here today. Dr. Waggers, I'm looking at your conference goals, and you're talking about the participants and the various actors, court actors, state attorney, public defenders, law enforcement, et cetera. Do you mean this to be a conference that's focusing specifically on Hillsborough County and Hillsborough County needs, or is your target population going to include everyone in the state or people across the country? What's your scope on this?
Our goal for this particular conference and this one is similar to how Hillsborough County gave us the seed money to build BRIGHT. Very focused on the Hillsborough County actors, as you all are the ones who are being quite more innovative actually than around the rest of the state in human trafficking, and using this to develop what could become a pilot that could be tested, and then a model that potentially could be replicated throughout the state. But for this ask and this focus, we are very focused on doing this for Hillsborough County. But of course, we always have the goal, if we can be successful with this with Hillsborough County is now providing a model that others could replicate.
And one follow along. This group recently did a collaborative lab to look at some of the strengths and weaknesses of the system. Have you had a chance to look at that and see how that, and the outcome of that, and how that might dovetail with this conference concept?
We've heard of it. We haven't had a chance to look specifically at it, but the reason we have as part of this ask with the conference, the front-end research, that type of front-end research would allow us to work with and talk with partners like yourself to gain an understanding of all of these different types of things, or a report like you have, see what has already been done, look at the knowledge you guys have already learned, design the rest of the research from there so that we're building on what you already know and incorporating it.
And if I may read the statement from Vice Chair Groover Skipper. She states, I am in favor of providing funding to the BRIGHT project at USF to assist their mandate by the state to develop a statewide repository for all things human trafficking in the state of Florida. They have a very comprehensive vetting program for human trafficking organizations to be included on the BRIGHT platform. So it makes sense to utilize their system to vet human trafficking organizations who come to the Commission on Human Trafficking for funding. Commission on Human Trafficking funded them a few years ago, and it would be appropriate to provide additional funding as it would greatly assist our human trafficking efforts within Hillsborough County. BRIGHT could also be funded to help the Commission on Human Trafficking implement a human trafficking conference that has been discussed. I serve on the BRIGHT Advisory Board and will have to recuse myself from voting on this.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments or questions before we do much? Alex.
Alex Petrolak, Religious Institutions. Dr. Wagner, just a clarification. You had mentioned that part of your objective would be to, I guess, help us communicate a little bit better between services and services supplied. That would be that's an excellent event, but it's also kind of daunting sounding. Can you elaborate on that at all? How general will it be, or will it be specific to the members of the commission?
The communicating, it would be the event. Our goal with the event would be to plan it at a date and time. We would collaborate with the court administrator, because we know the court schedule is extremely difficult, to invite as many of the players as possible to attend this event together, which is why we have such a heavy personnel, so we can break you all into smaller groups, where at each table in those groups, we, so for example, we don't want a table full of state attorneys. We want tables that have a survivor, a state attorney, a public defender, a nonprofit org, someone from the commission, all the different perspectives, right? Something we've learned in the last 3 years in building BRIGHT is we've hosted several events where we're just updating people on BRIGHT. And we've learned when we can have a lunch or food and these different potential stakeholders who use our system come together in these types of settings, they just begin personal relationships and talking with each other and gain a greater understanding. So that's the soft part of the event, is us trying to facilitate these discussions. So for example, in my experience in the past, when I was a law enforcement officer, oftentimes we would get frustrated with the state attorney's office. If they didn't file on a case, the state attorney's office would get frustrated with us. But if we got together and we were in a setting where we just started talking about how we might look at a case or what our job, role, and function is in the system, or the pressures we have to work under, we start to gain an understanding then of why maybe that state attorney didn't file, or why that officer made that decision that they did. Get a little more human with each other. That is what you need to start building, the collaborations and the network and communicating. We've also learned that in this space, trust is imperative, trust in relationship building. So it is all about people want to see and meet with each other, and we keep hearing from people in the community we're working with. They want more in-person events where they can just get together, talk, share, and get to know each other. So we're building on that, but we're trying to facilitate this in a little more structured way so we can learn from each other a little bit. We can learn from our research, but we can also help people make those connections of, wow, I didn't know you were in my community doing this particular thing as a nonprofit, as an example, and maybe how that nonprofit could come in and help the state attorney in some way or public defender in cases they were unaware of. So those discussions kind of become organic when you're in an event. So that's a way we would facilitate. The other goal would be we then can identify and add to our database the different individuals who come, their roles and their functions. So in the future, other events we run or other things we're doing that naturally bring people together, we can keep bringing them together to communicate with each other.
Any other questions or comments? Motion to pass for Bright for the conference?
I actually have a couple of questions.
Yes, thank you. Love it.
I guess my first question is going to be, I wasn't at the last steering committee meeting, so there might be some things that I'm missing, but looking at the cost here, $181,000, and I see there's research costs for $106,000. I guess my first question to the board would be, is like, do we feel that research costs are necessary for this conference? I understand the point about facilitation and getting stakeholders together and that sort of thing. I guess what I don't understand fully is the need for the research costs and that kind of thing, how we feel that part's actually be beneficial. I think it is beneficial to have law enforcement and the public defender's office and the state attorney's office and various non-government organizations to be together. I'm looking at a lot of the sessions suggestions. I guess I'm just failing to see where the research cost comes in. I feel like it's a lot of money to spend, and I feel like we can meet our goals and objectives for having a conference without having to spend $100,000 on a research cost. So I don't know if somebody can give me some input about that, essentially.
Yes, Lisa.
I'll ask USF to further explain, but this exercise is more than a conference. So the initial seed money that this commission provided to USF for the Bright project was $150,000. And that wasn't by any means all of their budget to stand up the Bright project. But I think what Dr., and I don't know if I'm saying her name correctly, but Dr. Wages was...
You are
good.
saying it correctly.
Yay. So I believe what she was saying earlier is that to move the human trafficking, I don't want to call it a battle, but to stem the human trafficking industry in Hillsborough County and across the state, there hasn't been a lot of research-based approaches. So their ability as a preeminent research university would be to gather information, to go forward and provide what it is that would be helpful. Identify the gaps, I think, is one of the phrases that she used. And it would be so that in Hillsborough County, we could, lead the way in a research-based approach to addressing human trafficking, and implement strategies that come from the ground up rather than the top down. And I'm not sure if I put that well, but
I can address it too, Lisa, because this is an extremely common question. Often nobody wants to invest in the research. They just want the output of the program. So it's common. And many people don't understand fully, because they're not in our space, how we do research and its costs affiliated with it. Just like without talking to people, I don't understand their jobs in their space. So just to give you an idea on the personnel costs, we are being sought after by groups throughout the country on how do we get Bright working as well as it does. And it's because we follow what is a participatory action research model. The negatives to a participatory action research model is they're more costly and time consuming. The benefit of it is it's exactly what it says it is. It is the researcher facilitating and participating with the actual stakeholders. So instead of us coming in and saying, you should do this or you should do that, or we know, we're actually building alongside the stakeholders to meet their exact needs. So if you would like an idea of how we came up with our personnel costs, we used it based on the numbers of hours we spent talking to people. So in this type of research, what we're proposing to do before the conference is multiple interviews. One interview that lasts an hour takes 2 to decode and transcribe. So you have 3 hours of time and you need at least 2 people in it, one conducting it and one that's taking the notes. That's why you see a lead researcher versus an assistant or a graduate student for different rates. We then do multiple interviews and we have to make sure that we're talking to all of those stakeholder groups. Once we compile all that data, we have to go and read every single word, basically. We have some AI and other things that help us do it a little faster today, but you still have to train it to identify the themes. So the entire point of the conference we're looking to do is conduct that research ahead of time and bring to all of the stakeholders what we learn from that to conduct the training and decide what needs to actually be presented, because we're going to craft what that panel talks about around what we actually learn first is actually happening with all of the people in the field. So we're meeting what they're saying they actually want and need. And then we have more research happening at that conference, because what we're trying to do is get to, if we propose a potential innovative response model, we have to make sure that model is going to work for every stakeholder group. And we've built relationships with each one of those to pilot that with us and to come back and advise this board on, here are the real gaps your people in the field are really saying they want or need. Oftentimes, what happens is we skip that part, and individuals from their perspective, which might be different from another stakeholder, makes assumptions about what might be happening or needed. So I understand the question. I understand it might look expensive. It may not look like it's necessary, but to give you a concept, with that initial seed money, and if we just looked at the first year of needs assessment that we conducted to even come up with the idea of Bright, we conducted over 100 interviews. And so you can see how that, we're not going to conduct that many here. We don't need to. We were doing that statewide. And we do have and could provide, I can have Kaylee provide on our timeline how many hours we've put into constantly meeting and talking with individuals to develop the system we did that is working. So we're proposing to follow that same methodology that we use to build that for the communities, the community for a specific purpose, to come back to you all with, here is a good potential response model. And we know from the research, you're gonna need piece A, piece B, piece C in it. And this is the role of each piece. And so you can see your costs and whether or not this is feasible. And if not, where do we tweak it in a way that we don't lose what would be effective in that model? I'm not sure if that addressed the question.
Any other questions with that?
No, I think I understand the explanation. I guess to further discuss what I was kind of thinking is, obviously we've never done a conference before. We have no idea what the the outreach will be, the amount of people who show up, the type of organizations, the type of, we don't even know who would attend it. So it sounds like it's a lot of money to be spent on a conference that we haven't done before. We have no idea what to expect, essentially. So just from my perspective, I think it makes sense to have a conference, but to do so first without spending so much money on research and presentation, because you don't know if you're gonna have 20 people show up or 150 people. You don't know how successful it's gonna be. We may end up spending a lot of money to do something that's really great that no one ever sees. So that's just kind of my perspective of that, is that there's already a human trafficking conference in September in Clearwater, where, you know, there's obviously going to be some overlap as far as the things that are discussed and stuff. But that's just my thought on this, is like, it's a huge step to take, a lot of money to spend, with the assumption that there's going to be people attending it and that it's going to be valuable to them. We don't even know who may even want to attend. We can invite everybody, but it doesn't mean people are actually going to come to it. So that's just kind of my thoughts behind it. Like, I support the research. I understand what's being said. I just don't know if it's necessarily appropriate at this time.
Yes, Rob.
Just a couple comments. I appreciate and validate Dr. Wager's contributions, and I mean, she is the subject matter expert on these issues for our state. Our stakeholders have engaged in similar efforts over the years. A couple that come to mind very quickly are the conference we had to implement our mental health court model and mental health court program. It was a situation where we had all the stakeholders come together over at the courthouse, every public defender, every state attorney. We had a variety of subject matter experts that did a full day training on what it means to execute a mental health court model, the things that we need to implement. It was done at the local level with a very tight budget. Another good example, and Dr. Wagers would probably chime in here, but one of the other groups that many of the stakeholders here also participate in is domestic violence. And a few years ago, the stakeholders worked together to secure a Department of Justice Office of Violence Against Women grant to implement what's called the Comprehensive Community Response Model, CCR model, or Duluth model, which really is an evidence-based practice to address domestic violence in an individual community. Along with that grant, which was around $750,000, give or take, we had access to a national conference which provided all the necessary trainings to implement the model and then bring back those best practices here. Fast forward 6 years, and we have implemented that model, and we have a task force that oversees its implementation and problem solving. In that situation, we used other people's money to bring those resources here. And I think really it's a philosophical issue. We don't have a large amount of money to focus on human trafficking, and I think more recently, this group has executed specific programs and funding to address specific subpopulations, like the dependency youth situation that we're dealing with right now with the enhanced foster care program. So it's really a philosophical issue. Do you want to spend money on direct resources that are going to the target population, or do you want to spend money on some research that may lead to benefits down the road? So difficult question to ask, and I don't envy you.
I just want to chime in on your example, because as you mentioned Duluth, I used to study domestic violence for years before moving into the human trafficking space, and so I'm very familiar with Duluth. And my thought that popped in my head is what we're proposing to you all here is something similar Duluth did years ago to become the model that then people were trying to pay to bring them. So we don't have a model like that for human trafficking yet. So that's kind of what we're proposing here to Hillsborough County, is this partnering for you all to kind of bring this conference together and this research to develop what that model would be that then can go out other places, as well as implement it here. Part of our goal with this would be to lay out how it would be implemented as well and run a pilot program off of that, of which we would look for funding together, right, to do that. We wouldn't come continuing to ask. We would go look for those grant fundings to do it.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask briefly, have you had an opportunity to discuss with the stakeholders what their interest is in terms of the conference, but also in their participation in the research that you're proposing in the summer?
We haven't only had the opportunity, we do it daily. So in building Bright, when we're working specifically with our nonprofits, and now we've been branching into working with law enforcement and our survivors and the courts. We have multiple people across the state in different places in the courts, to include Hillsborough County. The number one thing they keep talking to us about is they want to get together and network and visit with each other. And we've been trying to do that online in various ways. They just keep saying the importance of this sharing together to be able to come together. We sit and participate in almost every task force and coalition across the state, including here locally in Hillsborough. And in that, we have hundreds of hours in our onboarding into Bright and talking and learning from stakeholders about what they kind of want and need. And so that's partially why we put this together the way we did, because to me, every time we're in those conversations, we ask for permission to transcribe them, and we use those as interviews and constant knowledge building of research to develop our proposals like this, develop what we do with Bright and in the lab to really try to meet those stakeholder needs and what they're telling us. So that's how we use our social scientific, research training in this field in a very applied way right now. Actually, Kaylee had to leave this to go to a meeting with DCF because we just signed an MOU with them, and we're working on how to start putting together processes and procedures with them in the adult safe homes with our systems. So apologize, she had to drop early to go to that meeting.
Thank you, and we knew about that, and thank you so much. I do have a question myself about the honorariums. So first, the honorariums are going to be for who and for how many? And your conference cost?
Yep, the honorariums are primarily to go to lived experience experts that would be on the panel that we would be hosting, and or within and part of the focus groups. We have been working really hard in our understanding, and the amount is to bring in a number we would need at the current rate we're being told they're typically paid. And so we are looking at making sure we have at least 5 or 6. And then the other part of the honorariums would be if from the initial research, the types of experts or speakers for some of the training needed had travel costs attached, then we would be providing them an honorarium to be able to come and attend the conference so we could benefit from their knowledge if it wasn't someone who was local. So these costs, so right now, without all of the research, we embedded this around numbers of other conferences that we have hosted or used or done at USF. But this would be a place that if we ended up needing fewer, then it would be money that we could reinvest into other aspects. Because I know once you guys give the money, it's really hard for you to take the money back. But our goal would be then we bring in more lived experience experts to ensure one could be at every table if we have enough money.
Well, so that was going to be my other question. Is there a way to increase, because looking at the total budget of $181,000, and then you're looking at an honorarium for lived experience experts at only $1,500. So is there a way to possibly increase, also understanding that the last thing you want to do is have to give any monies back?
Yeah, we could definitely increase those honorariums in amount per person to ensure we wouldn't give any money back. We also, we're working with several different survivors that run nonprofits that are working with other survivor and survivor leaders to identify, to ensure we have representation and diverse representation, right? So we might also have some costs of travel for some of those lived experience experts. So one of the areas, if we wanted to increase the honorariums in this budget, that we could shift money, and we're used to doing this quite a bit as a university, is where we have some of the research costs. Since at the conference we're including some of the research or the focus groups with graduate assistants or assistant researchers. Oftentimes we can commission students if needed without offering a stipend, and then we could shift some of those funds to the honorariums.
Thank you. Yes, Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
I can make a suggestion, and again, I'm going to refer to Ms. Dixon in the back there from procurement. It may be possible to do a not to exceed. So there are fluctuating costs here. I mean, for the event costs and the conference
Yes.
space and all of those things. That's a fluctuating number. It depends on where, what space is used, whether it's, a space at USF, which would be at a discounted price, whether, I could get some space from the city of Tampa I specifically mentioned Julian B. Lane, to try and keep it close to downtown or at USF's facility. So there are some maybe cost savings that can be shifted around so that these numbers aren't set in stone. So maybe a not to exceed number would provide some flexibility with each of the categories that are broken out here. I don't know if that helps anyone.
It definitely helps me. And just so that you all know, a lot of you don't know this, but I'm always going to be about the lived experience and to make sure that they are paid. And so that's where I'm coming from this, right? So I just want to put that out on the table. But if there's some flexibility, that's great, so that within the budget, they can look and see, where they can just shift money around. Perfect.
We did this budget based on different conferences we've been able to put together under Bright in the past, based on what have been our research needs and understanding of what we're projecting would be the scope of all of this research and the scope of cost of putting on this conference. We are in the past, and I'll admit when we've made a mistake, we made a mistake to not have honorariums, and we have learned from that and always make sure. Some of it too, when we have assistant researchers in here and some of the research costs that we have in here, we actually have some lived experience experts that are students or people working under us. So that is another way we can be paying them and employing them, and also giving them an experience in how they can help facilitate and work on research projects, because we do have some students that have lived experience as well.
Thank you.
And Dr. Wages, my question was similar to Madam Chair's question. For the conference, you guys have personnel costs for $56,000. And I'm assuming the conference is a day, and obviously there's planning to get to the conference. But are the survivor leaders compensated as part of that personnel, since you were wanting one to be at each table?
Yes, thank you. Yes, they are. They are part of those personnel costs. Those aren't just like our internal personnel costs, like employed here at USF, and part of those would be those survivor leaders and consultants that we would contract with for the day. Because our goal would be we have one at every table.
And then how would
And the bigger the conference gets, the more tables we have.
Got it, thank you. And then how would you decipher the difference between a survivor that's getting paid an honorarium and then one that's getting paid as personnel?
So we have some that are personnel already that we contract with. Does that make sense? So they're already under contract with us and Bright in the lab for different things. Also, the honorariums are more designated for the ones we would be bringing as one of the experts on the panel. So the ones that we would be asking to help facilitate in the research and the focus groups, we'd be putting under personnel because they're carrying out through the day. The other honorariums we're using as, okay, here's a lived experience experts we want to put as part of the panel and the training because of the voice that they bring in their leaders in their space.
Thank you, Natasha. Any other questions or comments? We'd like to put this to a motion. So I would like to motion that we pass for Bright. Excuse me?
I'm sorry, as chair.
Oh, that's right, I can't do that. I do that all the time, and I so apologize, because it's so quiet.
Right. So you can ask for a motion.
I'm asking for a motion, please.
Would anyone, if we can't get a motion today, I can make the same suggestion, that we can move this forward to the steering committee and do a little bit more of a deeper dive and have USF come back with some additional information and more specifics if it's needed. Because I'm reading the room and I don't see a lot of enthusiasm going around.
Yes.
Sorry, this is Charles Klug, and I think that perhaps at the steering committee, we can actually vet perhaps more of those costs. And you got some of the concerns about the research costs and maybe personnel costs. This maybe a further breakdown of that. I mean, maybe if this can wait, and then we would have it approved at the May meeting.
So, as I mentioned earlier, in order for us to not be pushed up against a procurement deadline, it does make it a bit of a shorter time period because it is USF. They are already an academic partner of Hillsborough Counties. So that would shorten, it may not necessarily be a 90 or 120-day process. So that being said, if once again the motion could include for the decision to move forward on this funding opportunity be vested in the steering committee, so that decision could be made in April and not push it to the May full board meeting. So that's an option.
How do you feel about the option to move it to the steering committee so that we can come back and then have a full vote? Is there a motion? Lisa? I'm going to defer to you.
If there's no motion, then it would just die for lack of a motion to be made, and the opportunity to use USF in this capacity would be a moot point. But I would remind you all that this is part of your strategic plan that you did vote on, and there are two elements of that strategic plan that are contained within this proposal.
Is it possible that there might be some questions around how is USF going to be able to have all their research conducted in time? Because August 8th through September 5th are the target dates to have the conference. Is that I'm seeing some heads nodding, yes?
Well, one of my, or when I posited my question, it wasn't necessarily with the intention or concern for Florida as a whole, but specifically targeting Hillsborough County law enforcement, public defender, state attorney, those stakeholders, and making sure. So when I asked my question, whether or not they were preliminarily on board so that when, in terms of trying to fit this deadline of making sure that interviews are done, that everything is processed, all the post work is done, and then presented by August, it's a very tight deadline. And so that's why I was also inquiring whether or not that had been shored up with regard to stakeholders and their willingness to participate in the research. I think that's also something to consider.
If I can address that, when we had the conference with collaborative labs, and everyone participated in those conversations, that establishment of the strategic plan and these specific goals, to me, is the buy-in from all of those stakeholders, because everyone was around the table. We all agreed to these sets of goals and these specific strategies to achieve those goals. So at the steering committee, there was buy-in from those who were present to move forward the strategies that were, that are outlined on the agenda. So I don't know if that answers your question, Deputy Chief, but this is a product of the strategic plan.
I would make a motion to send it to steering committee.
I would second that.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye. Motion passed. Thank you.
All right. I hope we didn't make you too late for your DCF meeting. And I wish you well with that.
Kaylee went, so
Okay,
thank
great.
you. And
All right.
just to address her point more directly, yeah, we have those partnerships. We've met with victim services in Hillsborough numerous times, some state attorneys and different individuals. So I apologize if I didn't say that more clearly to Hillsborough, but we have those partnerships. So
All right, so.
thank you all for your time and consideration. I'm going to move to DCF.
Thank you.
So then we have the presentation by the Lotus Coalition.
Hi, I'm Paula LaRue. I'm the director of the Lotus Coalition. This is April Arnold. She is a survivor leader. And so thank you, Madam Chair and members, for having us here. I see a lot of people that I've worked with and has volunteered for us. So yeah, thanks for that. So today we're here, we do have a PowerPoint somewhere, but today we're here to talk about, oh, there it goes, to talk about the funding that we received from the Board of County Commissioners through the Homeless Services, and we have the director here, Felicia, who manages our funding for that. But first I want to talk about who we are. I know a lot of you guys know who we are, but for those who don't, we're the Lotus Coalition, and we work in Hillsborough County. Can we get to the next? How do we, am I controlling this? Oh, here we go. Oh wait, here it is. We are a 501c3. We're a nonprofit here in Tampa. Our mission is right here. We empower lives, transforming communities together. And there's been a lot of talk here about collaboration. Together means all of our collaborating partners, all of us together. So we work with a lot of people in the community, a lot of nonprofits, a lot of people who work in this sort of field. So together we nurture hope and create pathways to empower those impacted by homelessness, addiction, human trafficking, poverty. Seems like a lot, but we wanted to create this nonprofit to help everybody, to include all of the underserved population. So our focus is safe housing, outreach services, peer and recovery support, and long-term stability and empowerment. Am I going the wrong way? Yes. Our community resources and services. The Lotus Coalition is funded by various community organizations and donors which support the agency to empower and transform lives. We have, we don't just have this funding, which we'll talk about in a second. We have other funders that have been funding us for a while, and we have other grants that we have. So this is a one-time grant, and we'll talk about that. So what we're doing currently in the community, we are Narcan distributors through DCF. So we do distribute Narcan. So when we do outreach, we do have Narcan. So we also do Narcan training. For a lot of places, we go out and do the training and distribute the Narcan, and then we also take Narcan out. We do outreach services. April is our outreach coordinator, and we do 2 or 3 outreaches a month. We have some safe housing. We do safe housing for human trafficking. We do have several houses. We are getting 2 more houses in the next month. We just got another house, which will be in Hillsborough County, which will be remodeled, and we'll have that, and we'll talk about that a little bit. We do housing for extended foster care youth. I know DCF was here. We do have 3 houses that house extended foster care youth, so we have youth 18 to 24 that are coming out of the foster care system that don't have stable housing, and so we do house them. So we have that currently going on. We do food security support and services in partnership with other agencies in the Tampa Bay area. We have a lot of people that come to us. We work with the guardian. I am a guardian ad litem also, by the way, and a foster mom. So all of the stuff that I was hearing today, I was like, I support this. We work with the guardian ad litem office. So they come to us for food and furniture sometimes. We have other partners that we do. Sometimes they need dressers, sometimes they need clothes. A lot of times they need diapers. And as a foster mom who took in a sibling group of 4, 3 in diapers, I know how difficult that was to get. I did not know. I'm 53, and so I was like, what is this diaper situation going to look like? And it was huge. And so I didn't know until we got into looking for diapers and found out that that's a need. And so, so we have offered diapers, so we have people that come to us and do that. So we also do case management, and we assist with resources. So even though people come in and they have case managers maybe from somewhere else, we collaborate with case managers from DCF and case managers from Camelot. We have Camelot Hillsborough kids, and we have Camelot Pinellas kids, which will now be moving to FSS. So we have those youth as well. So we do case management with them to help ground them and get them. But we also do case management for survivors. So this is the funding we got. We were recently awarded $100,000. It's one-time funding. Commissioner Hagan was the person that helped us with that, and Felicia is managing that money and helping direct us, which is good. I have worked at another agency, so we did have this sort of same funding, which a lot of you probably know me from another agency. So we have done sort of this same thing before. So what is this funding for? And that's what we're kind of trying to tell you. So we'll use the fund to help support operations and address critical needs of the underserved populations, including victims of human trafficking, youth aging out of foster care, persons at risk of homelessness, and persons experiencing homelessness in Hillsborough County. Really, we're focused on, we just got a building for a drop-in center. And so this building is 22nd and Columbus. It is right in the communities that really need this. So we're looking for volunteers and working on moving in, working on moving our stuff in out of the storages and stuff. So we do a lot of mobile outreach too, and some of you have done outreach with us, but this will enable different community partners to send people to us to come in and take a shower and get the Bartolo Foundation gave us money for essential education, so you can come get your GED through us, and we'll help facilitate that and pay for that. And you can come in and get that there. So you'll be able to come in and get your GED, you'll be able to come in and get clothes, take a shower. Hopefully we'll have a washer and dryer. That's a huge need. We hear this all the time. You'll be able to just come in and get these resources and case management if you need it. And that drop-in center will enable us to help the community, the homeless, and people who are at risk, and take in donations for foster care youth and extended foster care, but also be a place where we're able to assist with human trafficking if men or women come in. We do take men. One of our houses has housing for men who've been human trafficked. So I think, and we have LGBTQ home. I think we're the only ones here, and we do partner with several people, and so they do know about it, and it'll enable us to be able to vet them to see if maybe they are at risk for human trafficking or have been human trafficked, and try to get them some services through the drop-in center. So we'll be able to do that. So operate and provide more safe housing in the county. As long as I have been working in this field, housing has been, that's it. We can do the work and really identify the people who need help, but housing has really just been the barrier to get people to a place where they can help themselves, because they keep going back in because they don't have anywhere to go. And so this will help us operate some safe housing beds in the county. This money is also to establish and operate a drop-in center. As you guys know, I just told you, we just got a building, and we may get another building a little further up Nebraska, which might be for youth. And provide wraparound services for adult survivors and underserved populations, including our existing foster care 18 to 24. It'll employ more trained support staff and peer mentors. Everybody pretty much that works for us is a survivor leader or a peer support. And they've all been, DCF is training. April went through training last year, I think. And so everybody is going through that. So this will also cover essential needs for survivors and underserved populations. So this is what this $100,000 is for. And we've already really started because we have been, the Lotus Coalition has been around for about a year and a half already. And some of you already know that because you've come out. And so this is the drop-in center. We named it the Penhel, the TLC Penhel Drop-in Center. I don't know if you guys all know Jillian Penhel, but it's named for Jillian Penhel because she sort of gave us the motivation and the leadership to get out there and do more. And I worked for Jillian for a couple of years, especially during COVID when we were probably the only place open that had a drop-in center and a shower, which people were like, oh my gosh, you guys are operating a shower, but yes, we did. And so Jillian really was, her leadership really sort of propelled us in the direction and, just her inspiration and, her values and the things that she held dear. And we just wanted to let her know that we appreciate that leadership and inspiration. And so we named this after Jillian, so I'm sure you guys know Jillian. So this is opening soon, 2208 East Columbus. So if you want to volunteer. So that's pretty much what the money is going to be used for. And hopefully this drop-in center will last here. We do have other money, so I think it's going to be great. And then the other one, and then hopefully we'll branch out. We'd like to open one in St. Pete later. We also work with St. Pete. We're in the Tampa Bay area, so we're in St. Pete and Pasco. We do outreach all over the place, so we're hoping to get that. This also helps us with our mobile drop-in because we're mobile. And that's super important because not a lot of people can just make it to the drop-in center. And so we're out there bringing all of these services and sometimes clothes and everything to areas where this is really needed. And I know that several people have volunteered with us and they've come around to do that. And it's really important that we have that mobile drop-in so that we can get to where they are. Because a lot of us have cars, but a lot of them don't. And so that helps us get there. So pretty much that's a real quick overview of what the money is for. And we really appreciate just everything that the commissioner's office is doing and that they looked at us to do that. So we appreciate that. And so at that, everybody's waiting to hear from April. So April's going to give her testimony about why that is important. I've worked with April for about 6 years, I think, and so she runs outreach, and so she's going to talk about the role of trauma-informed care, and then maybe you guys, if you want to ask questions, and I can answer some of those questions. Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. How's everybody doing? I've been in the human trafficking world on both sides. So I was trafficked, I'm going to go over that and tell you a little bit about how my life was in the past. And then now I got 18 years on the other side of the human trafficking world. So I was in it for 14 and I've been out of it for 18. And for 18, I have been nonstop in the streets, helping out and doing, helping people. So I'm 48 years old. So I was sexually exploited. It started at the age of 12 and it went until I was 15. At 15, I got pregnant. My dad beat me real bad. I had a miscarriage, and then not long, I'm in Ohio, West Virginia area. So not long after that, I hitchhiked to Florida. I actually hitchhiked to Bradenton, Florida was my first place that I lived at. At the age of 15, and then that's when I met a guy and basically introduced me to crack cocaine, and then he basically just groomed me, taught me the streets, how to dress, where to go, how to smoke the crack. Thank you. No, thank you. Just kidding. And then from there, till I was 31. So basically from the age of 12 till I was 31, I've been homeless for the 14 years I was homeless. I've probably lived in every corner of Tampa, Bush, abandoned building that you could think of. If you ever ride down Nebraska Avenue and you see those women that are really shot out looking real bad, like holes in their feet and wobbling all over the place, that was me. You know, so it was really, really bad. I had several pimps. I've probably been left for dead. I've counted. I tried to remember, probably 7 times. And that's being, you know, shot at, choked out, left for dead. Let's see. There's so much. So basically for 14 years, that's how my life went. Man to man. I've been in jail. I'm not bragging, but this is probably what saved my life. I've been in jail 44 times, and I've been to prison once. And I'm still standing here strong today. I made it out of that. And it was really God. God is who basically, you know, saved me. I know fast forward, so 2007 is my last stay in jail. And when I was in jail, they came to my cell and they told me, your sister just had an overdose from, you know, heroin and crack, and she died. So I hit my knees, and that was like probably the 44th time I hit my knees. You know, every time I go to jail, I would say, God, get me out of here. I'll never come back. You know, and I would get out and I would come back. But this time it was different, you know. I heard God when I hit my knees. I prayed, you know, because I was just waiting to die out there. I didn't really care about my life. I mean, it was so... The only thing I wanted to do is just get high and continue to get high because I was so addicted, you know? So I hit my knees and I prayed, and I heard God. I heard him. He said, come home. I heard his whisper. And that's when so my roommate is a girl that I was in the streets with my last stint in jail. And she told me about an organization that's getting ready to open their first trafficking house. And I was able to get out of jail and move. I was the first resident, probably for the first trafficking house in Tampa. I was the first resident in this organization. I stayed, and I was with that organization for 15 years. So in the last 18 years I've been clean, you know, I have been going strong at just being an advocate for people that's homeless, people that's in human trafficking, prostitution. It don't matter. It's, you know, we all need to be loved the same. Let's see, a couple other things. So I worked in the jails, volunteering in the jails for 10 years. So I would go every week, every Tuesday, to Falkenberg or Orient Road and teach human trafficking classes. Has anybody ever heard of Tampa Bay Lockup? It's a show that came out a couple years ago, Lockup Tampa. It's called Lockup, and they did one in Tampa. So I was able to get on that show because they always basically video the inmates and their story. But when I went in there, the officer said, this is a lady that used to live here in this jail. So they was just so excited that they put me on their show. So that was pretty exciting. 3 years ago, I won the Tampa Bay Hero Award for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So you could look me up. I won that 3 years ago for all the work that I have been doing in the community for the last 18 years. Thank you, thank you. So, you know, I'm really excited about what's happening now. You know, there's a lot I left out. I mean, I could traumatize you another day. Just text me. It'll be fine. I'm trying not to traumatize anybody. That's why I'm keeping it short. But I'm really excited for, you know, the grant that we got. Thank you so much, because it is so much needed. I'm so excited for this drop-in center, you know, because when I was out there, I can remember so many days that I didn't have no shoes. I didn't sleep for a week. I didn't have nothing. It was just horrible. So to have a place to be able to drop in and take a shower, get a clean outfit, charge my phone. I didn't have a phone. You know, get some snacks, you know, just get some resources, you know, because it's important. If I did not get into that first program when I got out of jail in 2007 with that free housing, I stayed there for a year, I probably would be dead right now. Because if I didn't have the housing, there's no way I would be able to get my life. How am I going to get my life together and live in the bushes and get up and go to work? There's no possible way. You know, so housing is a very, very important part, a central part of getting out of human trafficking, getting your life together, or even just in the street general. Right now, I'm basically doing a lot of outreaches. I do two to three big outreaches a month. So I basically just set up a team. We get like 15, 20 volunteers. Alex comes with me every outreach that I go on, him and his wife. And we just go set up at different locations around the Tampa area, and we pass out food and Narcan and clothes and prayers and hugs and food, just whatever that I have in my storage. I'll just go take everything out and pack my car up and have other people pack their car up, and we'll go set up at different locations. Like, for example, my last outreach was last Saturday, and, my volunteers are like, why are we over here? And I'm like, well, it's very important. So we went over there on 15th and Fowler, that alleyway behind Starbucks, if anybody knows that area. We had 25, 30 people come through that alley that were needing assistance, right, Alex? And they were like, wow. So, yeah, I'll be doing outreach and, everything that I do now until the day that I die, because it's just, I've been there and I've done it and I know what the need is. I feel that if I can just save one person's life in my life, it's worth it, which I know I've already saved many, but that one person saved me. And now I can give back to other people, so I'm sweating a little bit. I don't know if it's my double chin or what. But yeah, I'm really excited for what the future's holding, and thank you guys so much for the grant that you gave us, because it's going to help so many people. Our new location is right there by that McDonald's off of I-4, off of Columbus. So if you guys know that area, there's at least 20 and 30 people in that area on a daily basis right outside our new drop-in center. So I'm really, really excited to be able to help people. They can come in, get a shower, like Paula was saying, get some case management. I'm there to help them sign up for food stamps, health care, try to get them in housing if it's a program or whatnot. So I'm really excited about it. So, yeah, so thank you so much. Anybody have any questions?
We're very
Can I
excited
make a
to have
comment?
April on board.
Yeah. Can I make just one comment?
Go ahead.
Yeah, and not a question, but a comment. April took all my steam away. I'm not really well known for endorsing anything, but one thing I will say about the Lotus Coalition is that they put their money where their mouth is. They talk about closing the services gap in a real way and bringing services to people where they are, not making them come to where you are. What April referred to a couple of weeks ago, she was literally pulling people out of bushes and putting them in chairs and giving them water and waking them up. If you want to get worn out, just try to keep up with her. But this is tremendously money well spent, and I really commend you for the work that you do.
Thank you, Alex.
Any other questions or comments? Natasha?
I just want to say thank you for the work that you guys do. You are like a beautiful example of love in action and doing what you can where you are with what you have. And I know the work you do is so hard, so just thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you do.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, it's a labor of love, and we do love to do the work, and we just really, we love being out there, and we love seeing our success stories, and, just watching, I'm just inspired by the people who work for the Lotus Coalition, and because we do have a lot of survivor leaders, and just seeing them help just lift up the people behind them. It's just so inspiring, and it works. Yeah, and it just takes money and it takes housing, and so we just are so thankful, and we're so thankful for the people who come out and help us, and the collaborators that we do have, the organizations that collaborate with us, because we are also not trying to reinvent the wheel, but we're boots on the ground, and so we're so thankful for having other organizations meet needs that we can't, and just come alongside of us. So, just really, really thankful for that. And so we just wanted to let you know that we are out there, and if you know people who need help, that we are out there. And you guys all got a little brochure. We do have a phone, and yeah, so I just want to let you guys know that this is going on. Sometimes it goes on in the background. You don't even know, because we're quiet, and we're not always like in meetings all the time. We do try to make a bunch of meetings, but it's we're out doing the work, so it's sometimes super hard to like come. But we appreciate. Oh, referrals. She wanted to know when we'd be ready to take referrals. Well, we're ready now. We're already actively working, so we have been doing it. This money just like expands our work. So there is a phone number on there, and my phone number is on there. So we already take referrals. We just got a Sale of Freedom just sent us somebody from Miami. We're getting ready to have a male come down from Miami who has an open case. So we're already actively taking referrals. So the money has just started with the county, but we've already been working, and our houses are already operating. As I said, we're getting ready to open up 2 houses, and I think the house that we just got recently for Hillsborough County will be for women. We have the campus, we're moving the St. Pete campus to men. We have a lot of males. That's something that's not talked about a lot, but when I was working at another organization, we only did women, and we had a lot of men coming at us. And so it's really been great to have these houses in, and I was not surprised at how quickly they filled up. And so, so we already taking referrals. So if you have somebody that needs to come, please get in touch with us. Yeah.
Hey, Paula. Thank
Connie.
you. And thank you, April. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. What I wanted to know, when you talk about safe housing, though, and it's twofold, right? So your safe housing, is it designated for our folks that are human trafficking?
Yeah.
So is it designated just for them,
Yeah.
or are they mixed in with other populations?
It's designated just for them. So we have different houses for different, we're running different houses for different types of things. So the house that, when we talk about safe housing, and I know that word safe, and we're going to go to hotels. We do have hotel vouchers for safe housing, and unfortunately, it's not ideal. It's not ideal, right? But that's what we have, and it's better than the streets. That's not what my long-term goal is. I have some other ideas about how we can offer short-term safe housing, but that's where we're at with that. But so we do, some of this money is for hotels, for that kind of safe housing, but we also have houses that are more long-term, and they're designated just for, so if you come in and you are, and it looks like you have some human trafficking, we'll move you to a human trafficking house.
But are they more transitional housing, sober living housing, where a survivor then is expected to pay to receive services?
No.
Or is it our traditional, what we know as safe residential?
It's a free for survivors. It would be, can you imagine paying for that? Would be terrible. It would, no, they don't pay. It does include recovery services. I am a therapeutic recovery person. I do therapeutic recovery, and so I started off doing therapeutic recovery. And so we do have some recovery services, and then we contract out with other places that do it. So we work with PAR, and we work with Cove a lot. It does include recovery services if you need it, yeah. And it is free, so it has to be free.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. Great presentation. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for listening. And if you want to volunteer, just call that number.
Madam Chair, the next item on the agenda is the steering committee report, but we have touched on the steering committee report and discussion throughout the entire meeting. So, I don't think we need to go through all of those items again. I do have the obligation to read into the record, again, Vice Chair Groover-Skipper's comment on some of the elements of the steering committee report, and it's specific to the strategic plan and the recommendation. So the first item, the recommendation, she is Vice Chair of the COHT, but also Chair of the Legislative and Judicial Subcommittee. She has made the recommendation that the Legislative and Judicial Committee be disbanded and reports on legislative issues just be given, which Mr. Parkinson is apt to do at our meetings, so we can keep up with the legislation that is going through or pending in the legislature. We're in session right now, not we specifically, Tallahassee. That would be a motion and vote by this board to disband the Legislative and Judicial Committee to just receive reports at meetings.
Chad Cave, I'd like the motion to disband that committee.
Thank you very much, Captain.
Yeah, this is Charles Klug, and I second the motion, and also that we cannot advocate as a committee, so, I mean, it really is the update, and I believe Mr. Parkinson do a good job of updating us at these meetings as well. So I'd make that second. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against, say nay. Passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the statement from Vice Chair Groover Skipper is regarding providing funding for hotel vouchers, gift cards, and cell phones to other human trafficking organizations. I suggest, since that there are qualified human trafficking organizations, such as Created and Sail of Freedom, that have been in existence for many years, have been vetted, and have a proven track record of great work and integrity, we send an RFP, request for proposal, out and evaluate who might be most appropriate to provide that additional funding from this committee. My other thought is that if there is time frame for turnaround with the request for proposal process, or if time is insufficient, the Crisis Center could be the recipient of additional funding. My question with either of these scenarios is, how will the data be tracked, maintained, and reported back to us? So she hit upon a couple of different elements within that strategic plan discussion. And so that is what Vice Chair Groover Skipper had sent along. I've read all three of her comments into the record. Some of that is involving the budget and procurement summary, which is the first item on the staff report. In your packets is an updated budget summary. It had included the amount that USF had proposed. With that amount, if it were not to change, you would have $102,245.50 for the RFPs that Vice Chair Groover Skipper mentions. Without the USF proposal going forward, you would have $283,247 for an RFP. I've said this before and just repeating myself, we are up against deadline. The process for an RFP for procurement alone is at a minimum 90 days. If the proposal goes to the Board of County Commissioners for approval, then that would add potentially another 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the meeting schedule. It is imperative that this committee make some decisions on scope of work. The timing of this RFP is now critical. One of the things, again, I had said earlier, mentioned earlier, was that for this committee to vest in the subcommittee some decision-making responsibilities, so that I believe it's April 25th, it's on the agenda.
Yes.
The next meeting?
4th.
April 24th. At the meeting of the steering committee on April 24th, the steering committee would be able to approve a scope of work, would be able to approve an RFP being released by the procurement department, and would direct staff to work together on those items. So that way, the procurement process can begin. With an RFP, part of the 90-day process is a scoring committee would be put together to review the proposals that come in, and that committee would do just that. They would score the proposals, and then the successful entity that comes out of that meeting would then be contracted with. So that is a little simplistic. I'm sure if Daria had to leave. She had an engagement she had to get to. But if Ms. Dixon was here, she could correct me if I was wrong on any of those points. So if this committee is comfortable with that procedure, to make a motion and vote for the steering committee to continue to move forward on the RFPs for the remaining funding that you have, and that would be $283,247.
I make the motion. Thanks.
Thank you.
Second motion.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. All against? Passed, thank you.
Wonderful. The other item, I just want to give a brief update on the public information project, the installation of the art. As we always were aware, the project was subject to the approval of the Florida Department of Transportation in Tallahassee. The chief engineer has vetoed the location. So the local District 7 office has proposed new locations for the art to be installed. And that is that map that you see with the little dots on it. The next page in your packet, there's another page that shows another view. I just printed this one because I think it makes the most sense. These are panels that would be installed by the Florida Department of Transportation local office. These are at an angle. The other view showed them static. All of this is subject to cost. So in working with the FDOT consultant, they are pricing out different options of panels, but these are the general locations that it would be in. The artwork doesn't need to be changed. It might need to be shortened a bit or lengthened a bit, but the artwork would remain the same. So it just wouldn't be on the columns underneath the interstate. And that's because the chief engineer in Tallahassee at FDOT had thought that it was too distracting for what they term a limited access corridor. So that's where we stand with that. And I believe that is all I have. I know Mr. Parkinson had prepared the legislative update that we spoke of a moment ago. We're really close on time this afternoon. He provided copies for all of you. If you have any question on any of the legislation that's contained within your handouts, feel free to reach out to me or to Mr. Parkinson, and we can address your concerns. And that's all I have.
Lisa?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
are we taking back the mural project or the public installation back to the steering committee? Because there are things like, what's our timeline? When are they going to possibly have these panels ready for us? Are we
Well,
looking?
The funding has already been provided to the Tampa Foundation. They're managing the schedule. There's really nothing to be voted on or discussed since the artwork is not changing. The location is directly across the street from where the original location was. And I think personally, how I feel is that it's I think better. Because if you look at the map, the kind of circular driveway, that little almost I-shaped, that's the area where buses pull in and pull out. And there are benches along that. That's where those three little dots are. There are benches where people sit. So they'll see this message getting on and off the bus. Not all the buses land here, but a lot of them do, the local ones. So I think it's a very generous offer for the local office to do this for us.
I agree, just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
You're
This is
welcome.
great, thank you.
Sure. And as you know, the individuals who had signed up for public comment have decided to make those public comments at the steering committee
Yes.
in April.
And then the last that we have is new and old business, and then within new and old business, we have the statewide task force and committee. The agenda was attached.
Right, and that's all. I have the minutes of these meetings have not been posted because they're not posted until after they're approved, and I have to make a public records request to get the minutes of those meetings.
And thank you for that. Is there any new business? I'd like to propose motion to adjourn. We need a second.
I don't think we need to.
We don't need a second, all right?
We don't need a second on
Thank you,
that one.
thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's